Chef's Secret Recipe Book. The Chef's Secret Recipe Book. Chapter 1. The First Day. Leo was 17 years old. He loved food more than anything else in the world. Every weekend, he watched cooking shows with his grandmother. He learned how to chop vegetables, cook soup, and bake bread. One day, his grandmother often said, "You will become a great chef." Leo always smiled when he heard those words. One rainy morning, Leo stood outside a famous restaurant called Golden Flame. Bright lights shined through the windows. Inside, cooks moved quickly between hot stoves and large silver tables. Leo took a deep breath. "This is my first job," he whispered nervously. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. Immediately, he heard loud voices. "More onions! Table 5 needs soup. Hurry up!" The kitchen was full of energy. A tall man wearing a white chef's coat walked toward him. "You must be Leo," the man said. "Yes, sir. I'm Chef Marco." Chef Marco looked serious, but his eyes were kind. "Working in this kitchen is not easy," he explained. "You must listen carefully, move quickly, and stay calm under pressure." Leo nodded quickly. "I understand." Chef Marco pointed toward a long table. "Wash those tomatoes and slice the carrots." "Yes, chef." Leo hurried to work. The kitchen smelled amazing. Fresh garlic, warm bread, spicy peppers, and rich soup filled the air. Leo worked carefully, but the kitchen moved so fast that he sometimes became confused. "Leo!" shouted another cook. "Bring me the chopped onions." Leo grabbed the onions quickly. "Here." "Good," the cook replied. His name was Nina. She was one of the best cooks in the restaurant. During lunchtime, the kitchen became even busier. Pans sizzled loudly. Steam rose into the air. Knives chopped quickly against cutting boards. "Focus!" Chef Marco shouted. Leo tried his best not to make mistakes. Suddenly, he dropped a spoon onto the floor. Clang. Several cooks looked at him. Leo's face turned red. "I'm sorry." Chef Marco walked over calmly. "Mistakes happen," he said quietly. "But in a professional kitchen, you must stay focused." "Yes, chef." That evening, Leo returned home exhausted. His grandmother smiled when she saw him. "How was your first day?" Leo sat down slowly. "It was loud, hot, and stressful," he admitted. Then he smiled. "But I loved it." Chapter 2. The Old Book. A week later, Leo started feeling more comfortable in the kitchen. He learned many new words every day. Boil the pasta. Slice the onions thinly. Stir the sauce slowly. Season the soup. Chef Marco spoke quickly, but Leo listened carefully. One night after closing time, Leo stayed late to clean the kitchen. Most workers had already gone home. The restaurant became quiet. As Leo cleaned a shelf near the storage room, he noticed something strange. Behind several old boxes sat a small red book. It looked very old. Leo picked it up carefully. The cover read, "The Secret Recipe Book." Leo opened it slowly. Inside were handwritten recipes, notes, and cooking tips. Some pages had small drawings of herbs and vegetables. Others contained strange messages. "A good chef cooks with the senses." Leo frowned. "What does that mean?" He continued reading. "Listen to the sound of butter melting. Smell the garlic before it burns. Watch the color of the sauce carefully." Suddenly, Leo heard footsteps. He quickly closed the book. Chef Marco stood in the doorway. "You found it," Chef Marco said softly. Leo looked nervous. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch it." Chef Marco walked closer. "That book belonged to my grandfather," he explained. "He was a chef too?" "Yes, one of the best." Chef Marco carefully touched the old cover. "He taught me that cooking is more than following recipes." Leo looked curious. "Then what is cooking?" Chef Marco smiled slightly. "Cooking is understanding flavors, smells, sounds, and feelings." Leo listened carefully. "Would you like to learn from the book?" Chef Marco asked. Leo's eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes, but it will not be easy." "I'll work hard," Leo promised. Chef Marco nodded slowly. "Good. Tomorrow your real training begins." Chapter 3. Learning the Kitchen Language. The next morning, Leo arrived early. Chef Marco handed him an apron. "Today," he said, "you will learn kitchen language." Leo looked confused. "Kitchen language?" "Yes. Professional cooks speak differently. Chef Marco pointed toward a pot of soup. What do you smell? Leo leaned closer. It smells spicy. Good, what else? Leo thought carefully. I smell garlic, onions, maybe black pepper. Chef Marco smiled. Excellent. Then he pointed to meat cooking in a pan. What do you hear? Leo listened carefully. Sizzling. Exactly. That sound tells you the pan is hot enough. Leo nodded. Throughout the day, Chef Marco continued teaching him. Never burn garlic. Always taste the sauce. Cut vegetables evenly. Keep your station clean. Leo repeated the instructions quietly so he could remember them. Later, Nina walked over carrying fresh bread. Touch this, she said. Leo touched the bread carefully. It's warm and soft. Exactly, Nina replied. Food speaks to your senses. Leo began understanding what the old recipe book meant. Cooking was not only about ingredients, it was also about smell, sound, texture, and color. That evening, Chef Marco opened the recipe book again. This recipe, he explained, is called Midnight Soup. Leo looked interested. What's special about it? Chef Marco smiled mysteriously. My grandfather created it during a winter storm many years ago. The recipe looked simple. Carrots, potatoes, chicken, herbs. But beside the recipe were strange notes. Cook slowly. Listen carefully. Serve with warmth. Leo frowned. That doesn't sound like normal instructions. Chef Marco laughed softly. Because great cooking is connected to emotion. Leo thought about those words all night. Chapter 4. Trouble during dinner rush. Friday night became the busiest night of the week. Customers filled every table inside Golden Flame. The kitchen became hot and noisy. 3 pasta dishes, 2 grilled fish, more bread. Everyone moved quickly. Leo carried vegetables from one station to another. Sweat covered his forehead. Chef Marco remained calm. Stay organized, he shouted. Suddenly, Nina looked worried. We're out of mushroom sauce. Chef Marco turned toward Leo. Leo, make another batch quickly. Leo's heart beat fast. He remembered the recipe. Butter, garlic, mushrooms, cream. He hurried to the stove. The butter melted. The garlic sizzled softly. The mushrooms released a rich smell. Leo stirred the sauce carefully. Then he tasted it. Something was wrong. It needs more salt, he whispered. He added seasoning and stirred again. This time the flavor was perfect. Nina tasted it and smiled. Nice work. Leo felt proud. For the first time, he truly felt like part of the kitchen team. Later that night, Chef Marco spoke quietly to him. You stayed calm under pressure today. Leo smiled. I was nervous. That's normal, Chef Marco replied. Good chefs feel pressure. Great chefs learn to control it. Chapter 5. The Secret Recipe. Several weeks passed. Leo improved every day. He chopped faster. He moved more confidently. He understood the rhythm of the kitchen. One evening, Chef Marco showed him the final pages of the secret recipe book. These recipes were never added to the restaurant menu, he explained. Why not? Because my grandfather believed some recipes should only be shared with trusted students. Leo carefully turned the pages. One recipe caught his attention. Firelight stew. Beside the recipe was a message. The perfect meal can bring people together. Chef Marco looked thoughtful. My grandfather cooked this stew for families during difficult times. Leo read the ingredients slowly. Beef, potatoes, carrots, onions, fresh herbs. Simple ingredients. But the instructions were detailed. Cook patiently. Let the flavors grow slowly. Serve hot on cold nights. Leo smiled. It sounds comforting. It is, Chef Marco replied quietly. That weekend, Chef Marco gave Leo an important task. You will cook the firelight stew yourself. Leo looked shocked. Alone? Yes. I'm not ready. Chef Marco crossed his arms. You are more ready than you think. Leo took a deep breath. Okay. Chapter 6. The Big Night. Saturday evening arrived. The restaurant was full again. But tonight felt different. Chef Marco stood beside Leo. This is your chance, he said quietly. Leo began preparing the stew. He chopped vegetables carefully. He browned the meat slowly. He stirred the pot gently. The rich smell filled the kitchen. Customers in the dining room began noticing it. "That smells amazing," someone said. Leo smiled nervously. "Remember your senses," Chef Marco whispered. Leo listened to the bubbling stew. He smelled the fresh herbs. He watched the color deepen slowly. Finally, the stew was ready. Chef Marco tasted one spoonful. For a moment, he said nothing. Leo became worried. Then Chef Marco smiled proudly. "This tastes exactly like my grandfather's recipe." Leo's eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes." Nina clapped happily. "You did it." That night, customers loved the stew. Several people asked for more. Others complimented the rich flavor and warm aroma. After closing time, Chef Marco handed Leo the old recipe book. Leo looked surprised. "I can't take this." Chef Marco nodded slowly. "Yes, you can, but it belongs to your family." "And now," Chef Marco said kindly, "you are part of that tradition." Leo carefully held the book in his hands. "I'll protect it." "I know you will." Chapter 7, A New Dream. Months later, Leo became one of the most trusted young cooks at Golden Flame. New workers often asked him questions. "How do you make the sauce taste better? How do you cook under pressure?" Leo always smiled before answering. "Use your senses," he would say. One snowy evening, Leo walked home carrying fresh bread from the restaurant. He thought about everything he had learned. Cooking was not only about recipes, it was about patience, teamwork, creativity, and care. When Leo entered his house, his grandmother smiled warmly. "You look happy." Leo nodded. "I think I finally understand what makes a great chef." "And what is that?" she asked. Leo smiled softly. "A great chef cooks with the heart." His grandmother laughed gently. "Then you are becoming a true chef already." Leo opened the secret recipe book once more. Inside the cover, he noticed a sentence he had never seen before. "The best recipes are not secrets forever. They are gifts meant to be shared." Leo smiled. One day, he hoped to teach another young cook the same lessons. And somewhere deep inside the warm, busy kitchen of Golden Flame, a new story was only beginning. Vocabulary words: sizzling, the sound of food cooking in hot oil; fragrant, having a pleasant smell; seasoning, salt, pepper, or spices added to food; texture, how something feels when touched or eaten; pressure, stress from difficult situations; recipe, instructions for cooking food; ingredients, foods used to make a meal; aroma, a strong, pleasant smell; professional, skilled and serious about work; tradition, something passed from one generation to another.